Well, welcome back to our channel, everybody. This week I just wanted to do a quick how-to video on how to fish flasher fly combos and flasher meat rig combos for salmon and trout on the Great Lakes. You've seen in a lot of our videos we run these and they're very productive for us, so I wanted to break down our rig and show you guys how we like to fish them. So the first thing I wanted to start off talking about, guys, is the importance of running a good line and good terminal tackle with your flasher combos. These are real expensive rigs, so you want to minimize the amount of breakoffs you have for sure. So you do not want to let your lines, your monos, sit on your reels over from the year before. So each year you want to spool up fresh monos. I even like to spool up fresh monos every 3-4 weeks because I use them a lot. So make sure you have a good fresh line on there. Now when you're running your wire lines and your braided lines off your divers, you can get multiple seasons out of those lines, but the sun and the water will rot your monos and fluorocarbons more, so make sure to change those lines frequently. Now the line I like to run with these is Berkley Big Game. This is just a cheap mono. I think I got this spool at Dunham's for like $8. It's 440 yards. Now you want to run at least 25-pound mono off your downriggers, and I like to run at least 30 off the divers. I go 30 to about 50 off the divers. If I'm running a big flasher like 11 inch paddle or something like that, I'll go 50-pound, but if I'm running just like an 8-inch spin doctor or something, I'll run 30-pound, and that seems to be a great combo. Now for swivels here, you want to run, these are just coast lock snaps. You want a good ball bearing swivel. Having a good durable ball bearing swivel is really important because you do not want these opening up when a fish strikes. Like I said, this stuff takes a ton of abuse, so make sure you have a good ball bearing swivel, and you'll want to connect swivels on all ends of your line just to make sure everything rotates to prevent line twists, because with that flasher rotating through the water, there's going to develop a lot of line twists and stuff, so you want to make sure you have a lot of swivels on your lines. So now I'm going to break down the different setups that I like to run these flasher rigs off of. My favorites are off downriggers and dipsy divers. Now you can run these off your lead core and copper and long lines as well, but downriggers and dipsies are my favorite setups. With those long lines, they take a lot of abuse, especially with planer boards and rough seas, and you can lose a lot of tackle with those. But if you do run them off long lines, you want to make sure to run a beefy line. You want I like to run at least 50-pound lines when I run them off copper and lead core lines. So for our downrigger rod here, we just have an Okuma Blue Diamond downrigger rod, and we're matching that with an Okuma cold water trolling reel. Now this is just a great combo. The rod loads up nice, the reel is durable. It doesn't take anything fancy for this stuff, but this is a great combo I've been running for a few years now. Now on my reel here, I just have 25-pound big game spooled up on this reel, and that's a perfect reel. I'll run that with spoons, I'll run it with J-plugs, I'll run it with flashers. I don't like to go anything less than 25-pound, but that 25-pound mainline seems to be a perfect medium to run all different baits off of. So now I'm going to break down our diver setup here. So what I have for a reel here is an Okuma cold water trolling reel. Now this is a wireline reel. This reel is made for wireline, and you want to make sure you have the right gear for running wireline to your divers, because that wireline puts a lot of abuse on your equipment. So what I have for a rod here, this is an Okuma Big Lake Tournament Series trolling rod, but you want to make sure the rod you use is made for wireline. So you can see these guides here, and the end guide is a twilly tip. These guides are made for wireline. Like I said, if you just run your standard guides, that wire line's going to eat through them. Now you can run Power Pro 2 off these divers. If you do run Power Pro, you want to make sure to run at least 50-pound tests, just because, like I said, that main line's going to take a lot of abuse with that diver and those flasher flies, which you'll see are very violent hits. So guys, when you're setting up your wire diver lines, it's really important to make sure you have a good healthy main line, a good healthy wire main line here. So this is 30-pound blood run wire line. Now when you spool this onto your reel, it's really important to take your time, hold your spool upright, and make sure this wire line does not kink. If this kinks, it will cause a weak point in your line, and when you have those violent hits, it will snap off gear. It's happened to me when I first started, and it will happen. So make sure you have no kinks in your line, and when you're letting this stuff out, you're putting stuff out, putting stuff away, take your time, you know, and just make sure you put a good effort in to keep your main line as healthy as you possibly can. So when I connect a swivel to my wire main line here, what this is like I showed you earlier, this is our Coast Lock snap ball bearing swivel. Now this is a 90-pound rated swivel here. You want at least, I like to run at least a 90-pound swivel with my divers. Now when I have my wire line here, I'm going to show you how I like to put my swivel on here. So first off, I'm just going to thread my wire line through our swivel here, okay? Now I'm going to push about 10 inches of line through. I'm going to give myself plenty of line to work with here, 10-12 inches even. Okay, now I'm going to loop them together here. So I have my swivel. Now I'm going to put these two lines on top of each other. Okay, now I'm going to hold them tight. I'm going to hold my swivel, and I'm just going to do a simple overhand knot here. So I'm going to take my fingers, I'm going to wrap it around. So I'm making a circle like this. Now I'm going to take my swivel, I'm going to go back through that swivel, or that hole. Now you can see how that line's pulling tight there. Now I'm just going to gently pull it tight. I'm going to snug the tag in. I'm going to snug the main line. I'm just going to slowly snug each line a little bit at a time until that knot comes together and folds perfect. Now that knot is not going to give. You can pull super hard on that thing. And make sure you test everything with this stuff, guys. You do not want any flaw. Those fish will find any flaw that you have in your terminal tackle, your lines, and your knots. So it's really important to be perfect with everything. So now we're going to add our diver onto our main line here. So when the fish go below 50 feet, I like to run these Dreamweaver deeper divers. Now these divers will get down to 100-110 feet depending on how much line you let out. So this will help you get in those lower parts of the water column. And when you're fishing flasher flies as well, it'll help bring that flasher, which creates a lot of tension coming through the water. It'll help get that bait down low in the water column. Now if they're in the top part of the water column, you can use this as well. Just put it back farther. I do. Or you can go to a smaller diver, like just a slide diver or just a regular sized dipsy diver, and run these off of two, and they'll work just fine. So we're gonna get our diver out of the package here. One tool you guys are gonna want is a Phillips head screwdriver. So this is gonna help you adjust the tension of your diver. So that's really important, and it can cause a lot of headaches if you don't know how to set this just right, or if it's not set right. You'll cause a lot of headaches, and it'll result in tangles a lot of times and not being able to get your lines properly set. So first I'm going to take our swivel that's on our main wire line here, and I'm going to snap it onto our eyelet of the diver. So this is your stem here. Now this stem is going to fold into this clip. See how that snaps in? So this can be a tricky thing here, guys. You want to make sure this is set perfectly. You don't want it set too tight where the fish isn't going to trip it, and you're not going to be able to trip it when you're pulling in your lines, but you don't want it set too loose either, so when you're trolling it's just tripping by itself, or when it hits a wave, you know. And that can be frustrating, especially when you get a lot of lines out. You get your divers in, they're in for a minute, then it trips, and it comes up when you're putting other lines out, and it can result in a lot of tangles and a lot of headaches. So yes, getting this set is perfect. So how this works here is you take a Phillips head screwdriver and you turn it right to tighten it, turn it left to loosen it, but I like it so it just snaps in there, and it's just a nice pull. It's just a nice snap pull that comes out of there. And once you get it down, and once you do it a few times, you're gonna get a good feel for it. So now here, I'm going to add my leader here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off just 2 arm lengths of line. That's all I like to run for my leader here. So I'm going to do that. Now I'm going to add a swivel, one of our Coast Lock swivels here to each end. Okay, so now we're going to put our snap swivel on here that we had on our leader. We're going to put it on the back side of the diver here. Just make sure everything's snapped in and in place. Now the last thing that you want to make sure is adjusted on your diver is which side of the boat you want it to run on. So you have the left and the right side here. Now depending on which side of the boat you're running your rods off of, you want to make sure this is set on the right setting. So this is a big weight here essentially, and so if you're running it off the starboard side here, you're going to put it on the right side, and you're going to put it all the way, so the settings here are 3, 2, 1. So this 3 setting will get your diver down to about 80 feet, you know, and as you go lower, 2 to 1, it'll go deeper. So if you just have it on the 1 setting here, that's going to bring your diver down to its maximum depth that it'll dive at. So that'll get down to about 110 feet on the 1 setting there. When I'm running my divers, I like to at least have it on the 1 setting just to get it off, spaced out from our downriggers a little bit, because our downriggers when we're trolling are going to be straight below the boat, but if you have it on that 1 setting, it's going to pull your diver off to the side of the boat just a little bit and space out your lines. Now if the fish are up higher or you don't want your bait down as deep, you can put it on the number 3 setting, and that'll get your bait off to the side even more and spread your lines out even more. And one more note I wanted to say too is when you're letting these out, make sure to let it out slow. Keep your thumb on the reel or set your drag right so there's tension when you're letting this out. If you just free spool this thing out and just let it go back there, it's going to twist and turn, and it's going to result in tangles, and it's not going to run properly. So when you're letting this out, put it off to the side of the boat, make sure your line to your flasher fly or flasher meat rig is straight, and just let it out nice and slow. And I like to let it out with my thumb at first, and then I'll put it in the rod holder. I'll set the drag loose so line slowly clicks out, but you want to make sure there's tension when you're letting these out. Now I'm going to talk about how to choose a flasher to run here. So flashers generally come in 2 different sizes, 8-inch and 11-inch, and they both work very well. Now there's 2 different brands that I really like to run. This is a Pro Troll, and this is a Dreamweaver Spin Doctor. Now they don't make too many of these Pro Trolls anymore. I used to run them for years, but another company that makes one just like this now is Salmon Candy, and they work really well, and they're pretty much the same exact thing. So in between all these different companies here in the trolling industry, they all pretty much just copy each other off color patterns. So when I refer to one color pattern like this Live Wire Pro Troll, you know, I know Dreamweaver makes one, a Live Wire, Salmon Candy makes a Live Wire, so they're all throughout the industry. So there's all different color patterns here. Now with these 8-inch Spin Doctors here, these work really well. Now these are a couple really good color patterns that work all year round. This is a Kevin's Girlfriend Spin Doctor. This is an 8-inch. Kevin's Girlfriend Spin Doctor. This is a Showtime. This is a Showtime. Now let me show you a couple more good ones here, guys. This is a Fish Scale. This is a really good one, that Fish Scale. This is Blue Bubble. That works really well. We have Carbon 14. That works really well. And just your standard, you know, black, white crushed glow tapes. These work really well. So early in the morning, I like to run these glows. These double glows glow on both sides. These work really well early in the morning. On a bright day, I'll run this white one. On a dark, cloudy day, I'll run this black one. So that's kind of like what I like to go off of when I'm choosing colors. When it's dark out, I'll run more blacks, you know, dark blues, dark greens, stuff like that. Then when it's sunny, I'll run more chromes, more lighter colors, chromes, Mountain Dewish kind of colors, chartreuses, stuff like that. So there are a large variety of manufacturers that make flies out there, but my favorite is Rapture trolling flies. I love the different color variations on them, and these are my favorite by far flies here, guys. So this is a Rapture Frosted Fern. Now we're just gonna, when you're choosing what colors to run with the flasher, you just want to kind of generally, you know, match them a little bit. So this is a good bright day rig here. This is a Live Wire flasher. Dreamweaver and Salmon Candy make this same exact color. Salmon Candy's pretty much the same exact flasher style. Now this is a Frosted Fern. Now you can see how it's, you know, real bright, flashy. It's got some chartreuse head, green beads, and that's going to match up great for this. You know, a lot of chrome in there as well. So when you take this out of the package, your line's going to be straight here. So all I'll do for this is I'll just tie a swivel on there. Just take one of my swivels. I'll tie one of these on here. It's as simple as that. Now, when you run an 8-inch to 11-inch, the length from the flasher to the fly changes. So when you run an 8-inch flasher, you want to run a 24-inch leader from the tip of your fly to your swivel. So if you go longer, your fly is going to lose action, and if you go too short, your fly is going to have too much action. So 24 inches seems to be a perfect length with those 8-inch flashers to run your flies behind here. So let me show you the general basics of how this flasher fly kind of comes through the water here. So when you put your fly onto your flasher here, put our fly on here. So when you're trolling and your flasher's coming through the water, this is going to be rotating. This is going to be rotating and snapping around. Now this fly is going to be coming behind it, and twirling behind it in the same motion of your flasher, and this fly is going to be snapping behind your flasher. So what this mimics here is a fish, is a feeding fish, and this fly behind this mimics bait, a piece of bait fish or a bait fish that fish missed. So these fish will see these flashers from a long ways away. That's why they work so well, and you always want to have one in your spread when you're trolling, because when you're trolling, this is going to put a big profile into the water. It's going to mimic a fish feeding on bait fish, and that's going to bring in fish to your spread and draw in fish from a long ways away. So when you run an 11-inch flasher, you want to put a 33-inch leader from the tip of your swivel here off your flasher to your fly. So that 33 inches, like I said just in the last, that 33 inches is a perfect length. There's just the right amount of action coming off of it. There's not too much action, there's not enough. You know, you can go longer, sometimes the fish like it longer, but 99% of the time, 33 inches from your fly to your flasher is gonna be a perfect length, and it's gonna be really productive here. So, another thing I wanted to kind of break down for you guys is when you run these spin doctors, so your salmon candies and your pro trolls are set up straightforward. You know, your swivel just comes right straight off the back of your pro troll, your flasher. But with these spin doctors, you can see there's a couple different settings here. Now when you have your first swivel, now this one goes to your main line, to your leader. You always want it on the top eyelet there of the spin doctor. Now you can slow it down and put it down here too, but that top eyelet, that's where you want it, that's where I like to run it anyways. Now on the back of your spin doctor, you have two different settings here. You have the fast side, so this side, this corner, this, if you hook your swivel onto this side, it'll make your spin doctor rotate faster. If you hook it onto this side, it'll make it rotate just a little slower. Now the best combination that works for me is to have it on the top eyelet up here and on the slow side. Slows it down just a little bit, and that seems to be the perfect, most productive action. So now I'm going to show you guys how to set up a meat rig here on these flashers. Now you can run this meat rig off of all different styles of flashers, all different sizes. I don't change the length of the meat rig, how it comes. I don't change the length between an 8-inch and 11-inch flasher, so I run it as the same length, just depending on what the fish want. When it's a hot 8-inch bite, I'll run this meat rig off an 8-inch flasher. When it's a hot 11-inch bite, when they're really hitting those 11-inch paddles, then I'll run this off an 11-inch flasher. So, got our Dreamweaver spin doctor here. Now this is a Diabolical meat rig here. These Diabolical meat rigs are my favorite. They work really well. The colors on them are just amazing, and they work all different times of the year, all different depths. You can get all different colors. Now this is a really good setup here. To be honest, I forget the exact name of this spin doctor. It's just black. It's got crushed glow tape on both sides with green dots. This is a great, you can, if you look up this same color pattern on the website, you'll find it. And this is a great rig to run down deep for kings or on a dark, cloudy day first thing in the morning. This works really good, especially for big adult kings here. So we're gonna take our meat rig out of the package. This is Black War Frog, baby. So we just took our meat rig out of the package here. Now how this meat rig is set up is it comes with a little bead chain there. And now this is where you're gonna hook, this is the end of your line you're gonna hook to your flasher. So one thing that you wanna tweak here is you wanna get an eagle claw snap. These are just the standard eagle claw snaps. Now I would not recommend trusting eagle claw terminal tackle like barrel swivels and stuff like that, but just these basic snaps, not the swivel, just these basic snaps here, guys. Those are okay, those work for me. And now they're cheap and they work, but do not trust like your eagle claw barrel swivels to run spoons on the big lake. They'll open up, they'll come apart, and it's just not good quality for this kind of style of fishing. So anyways, with this snap here, you're gonna put this on your bead chain. So you're gonna thread this onto your bead chain, and I'll show you why. And then you're gonna close that up. Now this is gonna allow you just to put this snap quickly onto your flasher. So then you can close that up. Now you can undo this and change this from flasher to flasher too, you know. So if you have this meat rig and a different color flasher's working a little better, you can flick that off, put it on your different flasher. So the whole goal of this meat rig here, just with the flasher fly, as the flasher rotates through the water, this meat rig also rotates behind the flasher. So what this represents is just a school of bait fish. You have your teasers here. You have 3 teasers on here, all about evenly spaced out. That represents bait fish. Then they see the head twirling behind, and they go for the Lone Ranger in the back. So when this head's twirling behind, what you have here is a little peg in this head. So that peg comes out. Now you're gonna put your strip of herring, I'm gonna show you that here in just a second. You're gonna put your strip of herring inside this head. So after you put your strip of herring inside that head, you're gonna take your peg, put it through this little hole. That's gonna hold your strip of meat in there. Then you're gonna put your hook just at the end of your meat. Now, these diabolical heads come already bent. You can see that head's curved like that. Now some don't. Like I believe big water tackle, I believe the heads come straight. You want to make sure this little bend's in there, because that little bend's going to allow your head to rotate through the water, and that's really important. If this is flat, your head's just going to kind of barely wobble back there, but if it's got that bend, it's going to rotate. That makes a big difference. So now we're going to put our chunk of meat into our meat head here. So the first step here, guys, is you want to take a rubber band, take a good size rubber band, and I'm going to half hitch this on my line. I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to take this rubber band, I'm going to fold it. Now I'm going to take this piece that's on my fingers I'm moving, I'm going to put it underneath this, okay? See how I did that? I'm half hitching it. I'm going to snug it. Not so it breaks, but just so it's tight, you know, just so it's nice and snug. Now I'm going to trim it with some scissors. Okay, now what this is going to do is this is going to hold our head so it stays upright of the hook just a little bit here, because you want that spaced out just a little bit. I'm going to show you why. So now we're going to take our meat out. So this is Dreamweaver premium trolling strips. These are just strips of herring. They work really well in the meat rigs. So I'm going to cut this pack, grab a strip of herring here. Now I'm going to put this inside the meat head. I'm going to put that up inside the meat head, just like that. Then I'm going to take this black peg that I showed you. I'm going to put it right through that hole so it goes through our strip of meat. Sometimes if the scales are big on this meat, you got to poke a little hole with your hook first, but that just fit in nicely with these Dreamweavers. So you have your rubber band here. Now this will move just a little bit, so I like to set my hook just so it's right at the end of that piece of meat there. Now you don't want to hook into the meat. You want that hook to just dangle, but that's perfect setup right there, guys. So guys, when you're running these meat rigs here, you know, you're putting chunks of fish into your meat heads. Salmon, they say, can smell 50 times better than a dog can. So scent, I believe, is a big important thing, especially, you know, we've been messing around with a lot of footage you've probably seen in some of our other videos of underwater clips of fish coming up to our baits. You know, they'll come up, they'll swoop at your baits, they'll follow it, they'll come up and nose right up next to it. So scent plays a big role, and you don't want to spook these fish. So something I like to do, especially when I'm running meat rigs, is to wash these heads when I'm done fishing. So what I'll take is lemon joy soap. I take lemon joy soap and a little scrub brush, or like a toothbrush or something, and I'll scrub it up inside there, and I'll wash it off. That way, you know, any fish slime, any fish blood, any herring slime, you know, is going to be washed off, and it's not going to just sit in your tackle box and rot. And if you put this inside of your tackle box with that fish slime on it, it'll actually smell up your other lures, which can spook fish. So washing these baits plays a big difference. Making sure you have nice fresh scent on there that's not going to spook these fish will help you catch more fish. So guys, another very important factor when you're trolling these flasher setups is you want to have the right speed. So when you're trolling these setups, I like to troll from 2 to 2.4 miles an hour. You don't want to troll any faster than that. The flashers don't have the right action. It's a little fast, but 2 to 2.4 miles an hour is a perfect speed here. And how to get your speed really dialed in is by using a fish hawk. So what this is a temperature probe. You hook this onto your downrigger. It goes down to the depth you're fishing, and this spins, and this tells you exactly how fast your baits are going depending on the currents. On the Great Lakes, there's a lot of underwater currents. So as you're trolling, this will help you match up the speed that your boats and your lines are moving on the surface to what your baits are running way below the surface, and it'll help you dial in those speeds. So how this works, guys, is this will connect right to our downrigger weight here. So we have our downrigger weight. We'll connect this chain to our snubber, goes to our downrigger weight. Now this probe here will go right to our downrigger cable, and we'll hook our cable up on our downrigger terminal right to this top. Now this will tell you water temperature, where the temperature thermocline's at, and it'll also tell you the speed. So it'll tell you the surface temperature, which is on the surface. It'll tell you how fast you're moving on the surface. Then it'll tell you the temperature of what your baits are moving at it'll tell you the temperature at which your baits are fishing at, and it'll tell you the speed at which your baits are fishing at. Now this is really important also in learning and knowing how deep to fish, because in the summertime a lot of times the surface temperature will be 60-70 degrees, so you want to fish in that 50-degree range. So by dropping this temperature probe down, you can find where that temperature goes from, you know, 60-70 degrees down into that 50-degree range, and right where it breaks is going to be the depth you want to target. Well guys, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop a comment below and we'll get back to you. We're actually going to do more of an in-depth salmon trolling video a little later this summer when we're on the water. But until then, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video.